Michelle. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're so happy that you're here tonight to talk about this very exciting call for an art project on the Audubon Terrace. This project represents a collaboration between NoMAA, the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance, and the Hispanic Society Museum and Library. And we're really, really excited to be coming together for this project. This is a project that will unveil a year from now, or a little bit more, like maybe a little bit in June of 2023, but it's a project that we hope and that we know will continue for years after. So that this really is an exciting opportunity for us. It's an opportunity for us to bridge our institutions and our organizations, and really to bridge our communities, to create dialogue between artists of the past, artists of the present. And so it really is an exciting opportunity. You are all here to talk a little bit about the call and what some of the technical requirements are, and what some of the sort of mechanical pieces, but also the conception for this exhibition. And so what I would like to do now is I'd like to turn this over to Alexandra Campos, who will talk a little bit about, or will present the project in sort of more detail. I do want to say that this night tonight represents an opportunity to ask questions about the application, about the project, specifics that you might have about your work, so questions that you might have about the space. I think that's always probably the biggest question that we'll have tonight. I encourage you to ask questions tonight. We'll definitely leave a lot of time for that, but you can also ask in the chat if that's more comfortable. We also really welcome questions in Spanish, and we will address those as well. So if you have a question that you want to ask, feel free to either put it in the chat for everyone or for us specifically, and we will answer all your questions. We're really here tonight to clarify and to sort of make plain this project. So I would like now to introduce my collaborator and friend, Alex Campos.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I'm really pleased that you were able to make it tonight, and I'm glad we're recording this to be shared with others. As Neria mentioned, this is a collaboration, and many of you know NoMAA is really the key factor organization Upper Manhattan that's been providing opportunities for artists and art organizations of all sizes. So in the spirit of that, we are happy to collaborate with NoMAA and provide this opportunity to our local artists in the area defined by NoMAA, which is 135th Street up all the way up and west of, on the west side of Manhattan. So I know in the directions it gives you specific streets in which you have to live to qualify to apply for this program. I'm more interested in talking about the mission of the Hispanic Society, because this is where we complement each other. And Michelle, if you could put the screen on, the Hispanic Society is one of the oldest institutions in the city, founded in 1904. It is founded on the upper Manhattan when it was just still countryside, or not terribly, not all countryside, but still mainly countryside. And Arthur Huntington, who purchased the land from the Audubon family, purchased this land to create his Museum of Hispanic Art and Culture. And it opened to the public in 1908, 1909. And the first major exhibition that was featured at the Hispanic Society was of Joaquin Soroya, who was a contemporary artist of that period. Joaquin Soroya died, I believe, in 1921. And he was commissioned by Huntington to produce, after his solo show there at the Hispanic Society, he was commissioned to do a full-scale installation of those 14 murals of Vision of Spain, which currently still hang at the museum in the dedicated room just to these paintings. And of course, Huntington also collected artwork by other contemporary artists besides Soroya, Zolaga, Viladrich. And so he was really interested in this concept of a living museum. And the museum and library, it was a museum and library, first of all, I need to say that. And he founded it as both, as free and open to the public. So over time, things have changed, the neighborhoods changed, demographics have changed, the residents have changed. And when he built this, Hispanic Society, he invited other cultural organizations, such as the Museum of the Native American Indian, or the American Geographical Society, or the American Academy of Arts and Letters, or the New Hispanic Society of America. And these all organizations, he provided land and space to create their own organizations. He created a cultural hub for Uptown, believing that Uptown was the next area or the next next neighborhood to blossom in Upper Manhattan. Again, the number one train was just finished being built around 1904. So this was a whole new area, a whole new venture of the expansion of Manhattan. And in keeping with that spirit, the project that we are doing is really bringing that contemporary aspect back to the Hispanic Society and our founding mission. Here we have Audubon Terrace, and we have, of course, the Hispanic Society to your left, and the first building on your left used to be the Museum of the American Indian, which now is occupied by the Hispanic Society. And then up the stairs is the main building of the Hispanic Society. This terrace, what we call the Broadway Terrace, we share with Baruch College, which is to the right, which took over the American Geographical Society. And so we shared the terrace. And this is a space we would like to do our art projects because it reaches Broadway, the first thing you see off Broadway. And for us, it's important to present something in this Broadway Terrace to invite visitors, to invite the public, because people seem to be hesitant to enter our plaza. And we want people to come in. So a big part of this factor is not only to provide opportunities for contemporary artists, but also to provide something engaging for the public, people walking by, as well as encouraging them to come in. Next slide, please. We have started activating this terrace, and we did this last fall during COVID. This was this fall of 2020. And as we were trying to figure out how to reopen due to COVID, we decided to launch an outdoor installation. Now, of course, we could not bring our master paintings out, such as Goya or Velázquez. But what we did is we did color reproductions, high quality reproductions that were rather resistant to put on these stanchions we created. And so we did a little like treasures, highlights of our collection for this fall month, which was really very popular. People came, we have audio components, QR codes, and so forth. After this experience, we really want to continue building upon this momentum of providing the outdoor space for more exhibition projects. And lo and behold, with NoMAA, we presented the next exhibition, next slide, please, which was called sorry, I just went blank on the title, but it was Latinx murals. It's called the Uptown Stories. And basically it was featured 4 artists, local artists who did these wonderful murals of the immigration and migration stories, particularly related to Upper Manhattan. And they were commissioned in honor of Luis Miranda, and also with an HBO special on his film. And so we really are happy that we were able to collaborate with NoMAA to present these 4 murals. Each of these murals are 2-sided, they're very large. This was a very large scale project. We collaborate with Baruch College as well to use the whole terrace. As you see, the murals on both sides take up the whole space. In speaking with, in continuing this collaboration, we understand that we need to focus on just our side of the terrace and reduce the scope of the project. So, for example, the next project we have here, next slide, please, is a current exhibition installation by by Andrea Arroyo, which we collaborate with Neria on producing, along with the North Cheval Mansion Museum at United Palace. And for the presentation at the Hispanic Society, we presented these 6 banners on the upper gate. We'll also have, using the stanchions that we had shown earlier, to do some other images. But the main feature are these banners. And so again, we have the floor and we have the gate. So the goal is to continue presenting projects on the terrace. Next slide, please. I think that's the last slide. If you go back to the main image of the terrace, this one here. Oh, that one. Yes, you are. So as you can see, so we are looking at providing an opportunity for an artist to present a project that would take up briefly 10 to 15 by 15 square feet because we are trying to keep the project to be on the left-hand side of the terrace, even though the whole terrace is there, because it's not entirely our own terrace. We share it with Barica. And they have other projects going on and renovations going on. We need to make sure we keep a clear path to the upper terrace. So the project, as we would like to put it, see the grassy knoll. That's a small area which a project go on. That's like 15 by 10. And then right in front of it, you have the bench. And so we're looking to do something around that area. We presided specs. The most important spec that we have to say is that it could be a sculpture, it could be banners, it could be whatever we want. Just as I mentioned, those stanchions are available to anyone who wishes to use them for color reproductions. We have the gate, but the goal is that it has to be freestanding. The piece cannot be embedded or drilled into the ground because of the historic landmark aspects of the terrace. So we're not drilling into the tiles. We could drill into the grass, but not the tiles. We don't want to fix anything permanently. We kind of fix anything to the building. So no anchors to the building. So it really has to come up with some project that's freestanding. We will provide, once we get the proposals, we will review them and see what makes sense and it's interesting. We will reach out to see how we could adjust the proposal to be freestanding if we find it very, if this is something we wish to pursue. So the artist needs to be a little flexible about that. We are providing an honorarium of $10,000 for the creation of this piece. We understand there'll be some installation costs as well as engineering costs that we will take care of, but it has to be reasonable. We don't want to ship something from Mars, of course. That's what we can afford. But we do want to provide people the opportunity to come up with as open-ended project as we want. We are not restricted to the medium. But I do want to say the Hispanic Society's mission is to focus on cultures and histories of Spanish and Portuguese speaking countries. Does not mean that you have to be a Hispanic person, but we do like to present work that relates to the Hispanic world. And so this is something, or an artist of Hispanic heritage. So either you have to be one of Hispanic heritage or the work itself should relate to the Hispanic world. And of course, within the confines of NoMAA's geographic boundaries as a resident or working in that area. So we're really excited. One of the questions we have for ourselves is we do have some potential for electricity, but it has to be limited. We cannot get a generator. That would be too expensive to do. We might be an old building, look rich, but we're not. So we can't have we can afford generators running for 3 months. The project will be up from June to September, more or less. And we also will provide opportunities for public program, lectures, art making workshops for families and the community, all kinds of stuff that we will pay additionally for those workshops. So it's a great opportunity if you have an idea for a work that could be in the public sphere, that would be weather resistant, and importantly can be freestanding, considering the wind factors, which are less in the summer, but they do happen. And of course, because of the liability to not only to the artwork, but to the public and to the property. So this is basically an overall view of the projects or the projects we're looking to have. And of course, if you have any particular questions, we're able to take questions as well, not only through here, but you could write into NoMAA, and we will respond to your questions as soon as possible. And now we like to open it up to take questions from the audience. And I do ask my colleague, Natalie Espino, who's here as well from the Hispanic Society, and Neria from NoMAA, to see if I forgot or missed any information that you wish to share.
That's great. Thanks so much, Alex. That was a very thorough presentation. I think we already have a question. I think, Moses, you're asking a question about a ramp. Do you want to, Michelle, can you unmute Moses to see if he can ask this question?
Yeah, I think we should mute people. They can ask questions because I think that's more important to hear direct questions.
He's not muted any longer.
So, okay, great. Thank you. Moses, do you want to jump in and ask your question here? If not, I can ask. The question here is about a ramp. Is the ramp going,
I think this is referring to our ADA ramp.
yeah,
It's not in the photograph, but yes, is currently installed connecting Broadway and the Broadway Terrace. So yes, that will be there.
Yes,
Okay,
so
that's-
again, we tried to to keep the project to a 15 by 15 or 15 by 10 square feet size. Unless it's something that's more like it's scattered, but the ramp does take up the first portion of the terrace. And it's very important when I show that image, if you show it again, Michelle, that I'm referring to the project remaining towards the back, meaning from around where the light post is at, second light post, right here. Right here. So if I don't know if we can see my cursor, but from this part, from this part here,
yeah,
like this area here.
right.
So,
Because
and the ramp goes all the way. The ramp goes all the way now to here.
Correct.
To the entrance to the main the east building. The ramp goes up to there. So we're looking at past that area.
Felipe is asking, does the Hispanic Society have insurance related to the artwork displayed?
Yes, we will have our insurance carrier. Our insurance would be covering the insurance on site, and as well as, and if it's more than beyond our insurance policy, we have a blanket policy. If it's more than that, we would need to then acquire more. We will take care of that as well. But this is why it's important that it's freestanding and secure, because we don't want the artwork damaged. We don't want the artwork falling on people. We don't want the artwork falling on our property either, damaging more tiles and whatnot. So all around, we need to make sure that the artwork we pick, and we'll probably, what we'll do is probably pick 3 or 4 finalists and talk to each of them and see what the project really is before making the final decision.
Okay, I think we have another question. Are banners on the fencing acceptable to the project?
Yes, if that's what you wish to present as your proposal, yes, that's why I showed them, because we're not restricted. Like I said, we have the signage stanchions in which you could do color reproductions, photographer. You could do nice color. They're not very expensive. You could do color photography that is water resistant. Those things are water resistant, and we produce them so they last for months. You could do banners on the gate. You could do a combination like Andrea Arroyo. You could do a sculpture. You could do a wall like the mural. You could do a freestanding sculpture that has spinning things going around. I mean, we're open to anything. It could be it could be little sculptures that sit on the floor. We're open to see the imagination that you can present to us. The guidelines more houses relate to the Hispanic Society's mission, which is in a link in the guidelines to our website, as well as being an artist who lives and works in the guidelines provided by NoMAA, because we really want to give this to be an opportunity for artists within our local atmosphere, our local community, and really engage the community about art, contemporary art.
There are a couple more questions. That's great. Alex, what will happen with the artwork after the exhibition?
The artwork does not belong to either NoMAA or the Hispanic Society. This is a borrowed piece from us from the artist. Of course, if you wish to discuss donating it afterwards, that's another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Then another question is the museum and are the museum and library currently available for research for the project? Great question.
Yeah, great question. As of now, we are working on trying to open up the library, the museum, the curatorial, yes, the library. Right now, we are working on trying to develop access to it. But if you are talking about doing research prior to your proposal, the answer would be this month, probably not. If selected, we would definitely be able to arrange visits with one of our librarians to do research. The problem is right now, due to the COVID regulations and reopening, one of the problems is that we can't have many people in areas that do not have proper air circulation. And that's one of the issues. So
I wanted to also say, and Alex, we've talked about this. This project will coincide with the NoMAA's Art Stroll. And so I think that's also a really it's a very exciting component of this collaboration. And that is, of course, that June is the month where we NoMAA sort of showcases and shines a light on all of the art and cultural opportunities in Upper Manhattan. And so this will coincide with that as well. And so we're very excited about that because we will, of course, include that as part of the promotion of the art stroll as well. So though it will extend beyond the art stroll, which is, I think really important as well, because the summer, as we all know, is very loose in terms of schedules. It will sort of be, unveiled in June, sort of in the middle of the art stroll, and will continue beyond that as well.
and so again, this is for June of 23. The
Correct.
goal is to select an artist this June of 22 and announce the artist. This is our, as you saw let me just go back a bit. You saw the previous collaborations with NoMAA, with the Latinx murals, and currently with Andrea Arroyo. These were just something that developed that were by chance, fortuitous. This project that we're talking about now is our first planned, commissioned project where we are actually coming together to pick the artist and present a united project. And so we want to announce the artist in June of this year, providing the artist was a year to create that piece they suggest. And of course, that also provides us with opportunity to meet with the artist on a regular basis throughout the year, like to catch up in September, catch up in November, December, catch up in February, to see how it's going, to see if there needs to be modifications because it's not freestanding or whatnot. So this is why it's important for us to have the year so we can make sure that the project is a success and can stand on its own. Physically, I mean.
Are there other questions or comments or concerns? Is anybody, we're happy to unmute you if you want to ask live, or if you want to, put your question in the chat, that's fine too. But this is really an opportunity for you to ask a question about the specifics of the project or of the stipulations as well. Does anybody, you can raise a hand, we can do it that way as well. But feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Okay, here we have. Will you be helpful organizing the materials?
Well, I think what we would do is that we're providing you a stipend to secure the material, to decide what materials you're using. First of all, so are you looking to, I'm not sure what your
So
exactly.
can we unmute the speaker here? I'm gonna invite you to unmute. Would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, hi, this is Dunya.
Hi, Dunya.
First of all, thank you very much for this conversation. Yeah, the idea was just, the materials that we are going to use. I don't want to bring up some examples now, but the question was just, will the organization be helpful organizing the materials, or is this something that is totally on the artist's responsibility?
I think, yeah, we believe that I think we understand is correct me, Neri, if I'm wrong, that we're providing you a $10,000 stipend, and you could, that $10,000 stipend, you could spend $2,000 materials and keep $8,000 in your pocket. You can spend all $10,000 on material. You could come up with a project that costs you $250 and you keep the rest. So it's really the $10,000 is inclusive it's inclusive of the creation of the piece, which means if you're creating the piece, we have to buy the materials.
Okay, so I understand, for example, I will be the one who goes to the next hardware store to get some materials, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Because this is being created at your studio and then brought to us to install.
I see. Okay,
However,
thank you.
engineering costs, you know, and Alex, that's something you might want to clarify a little bit.
So yeah, so we are going to review before we select the person. Like I said, we're going to discuss the issues of engineering. What makes to make sure that it's going to be freestanding. That's not because it can't be drilled in. So, you know, if you have something that's multiple pieces that loosen, these are going to be issues for us to resolve if we select that piece.
Right, and those installation costs will not be covered by the artist once the piece is, you know, we understand that there are other costs that will be associated with the installation of the piece, and those are obviously not the responsibility of the artist, but the creation of the piece and the materials that go into the creation of the piece, that would be the responsibility of the artist. And as Alex said, that would be at your discretion. And so however you would want to use the $10,000 stipend, that would be up to you to decide. Does that answer your question? Right. I think, oh, we have another question. Marta. Hi.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. This is very exciting. I have a question. If we have questions along the way, I may not have questions now, but if we have some questions along the way, which will be the path to follow.
Yes, I think they put in the chat info@NoMAA.org.
Absolutely.
I just put in the subject line, call for artist question, and that way it could be flagged, and we could it could be forwarded to me, and Neria and I could respond. We could discuss and respond how to answer.
Yes.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
We have, I think the deadline's the 31st, so we've got a little bit of time. So yes, any questions that might come up after the session or along the way, just feel free to send those along, and we'll be sure to respond.
Thank
I
you.
want people to think about, you know, their work and how it fits, and think about it was important for us to tell you that it has to be freestanding. So it cannot be something that's hardwired into the floor. That's very difficult to do. So that we understand that, but that's a challenge.
Right. But I mean, right. There's another question here. This is for clarification. Jesus is asking, what is the maximum size that the installation can be? Alex, do you want to?
Yeah, I think we said in the call 15 by 10 by 10 or 15 by 15 by 10. But that's just a guideline, because if you do little pieces that go scattered around, that could take more space because there's more space. It's just if it's a giant piece, we want to not make it taking up the whole terrace. But if you have little pieces, little sculptures that are going to be here and there playfully placed, then that opens the conversation differently. So again, it's not something we want to, it's a guideline, because if you do the banners on the fence or something on the fence, if you do hanging sculpture from the fence or something like that, you know, hanging piece, it's not going to be the same as 15 by 15. So it's just a guideline. And of course, there's that area, and also the grassy knoll that's right there that I showed the picture. And that's like 15 by 10. But actually, no, that's actually like more like 20 by 10. So it's longer area. So we are very open, but we needed to provide some kind of guidelines. That's why the guideline is exact if it's a one chunk piece, but it's really open-ended if it's more of a free-flowing piece.
Yeah, and I would say, because I think that's an important point, you know, though we say, you know, work shouldn't exceed a 10 by 15 area nor a height of 10 feet, that's assuming that it's one work, you know, one sort of freestanding sculpture, for example, piece in a particular area. But as Alex has indicated, there are opportunities to sort of, you know, place works that are smaller scales in various places. And I think that that's an important piece to sort of point out. Another question here is to clarify, the grass can be dug into. Is that correct or not?
Yes, I believe the grass, if the grass is the grass, I think you get dug into. It's not concrete. It's not the terrace. It's not the pavers of the terrace. That is just the grass. It grows and it dies. So,
Right. Right.
So again, it could be a complement to a sculpture. If you have a large piece and you want to add something more playful on the grass, or it could be the pieces just on the grass or overflows onto the textile, onto the terrace. We're open to ideas. We just need to provide the size of its one clunk piece. Like,
Right.
Joseph's Sarah piece, it's like, one piece is, we need to be kind of mindful.
Another
It's not a
question
Donald
here.
Judd. If it's a giant Donald Judd or it's Richard Serra, they're one piece. There's not multiple pieces. So
Another question here is, can we submit an already existing piece?
we discussed this and we are inclined to prefer a piece created for the site. However, we do not object to already existing piece if it's been done in recent time, because we know COVID's happened. And so I know a lot of things have not been on display in 2020, 2021. So I think done in 2019 is considerable, but we also want to make sure it hasn't been displayed publicly in a large format, or in New York City. Maybe it's been shown in Hawaii, but it hasn't been seen locally. So it depends, and that's something you could discuss, or you could send us a question, or give us an example of what you're talking about.
Alex, here's another one. Can you submit more than one proposal? So if you have,
We have no limit. I think that we need to discuss that, and we'll review as many as we get, and we'll put our heads together to figure out the pieces that make sense.
yeah, and to that point, I think, this is sort of an exciting opportunity. I think we're all open to the possibilities, of the possibility of the space and the collaboration and any ideas that you might have. So yeah, I think having more than one idea as sort of options, I think that's absolutely fine. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Just apply each one differently. Don't put all of them in one application.
Correct. Yeah.
So fill out the form for each one, and how it relates, because you should articulate clearly how this relates to the mission of the Hispanic Society as one of the questions. And if you have one piece that really is about this, another piece is about that, we need to know how you see it fitting into the bigger picture. We try to keep the questions short and brief. We prefer that as well, because we have to review them all, but we also don't want to tax you with too much information, with, putting everything out there, because we're really open to making this a collaboration. And that's why it's important for us to pick somebody this June, and so we can have a year to work together as a team, as a collaboration. We're not here to tell you what the subject matter or the theme's about, but we're here to provide guidance on what can fit in the space, what works in the space. So how, things
Right.
like that.
And how we can support you along the way.
Right.
Because, it's a year out. And so we want to be available to you as you think about the space, as I would encourage everybody to visit the space. I think maybe, going and seeing it will serve as inspiration. Just walking in and taking a look, I think will provide opportunities for you to think about what might sort of strike you as a good idea for the space. So I would certainly encourage you to do that. You have some time before the deadline. And so, yeah, I think if you have questions along the way, you can certainly ask those. But again, I think it's sort of an in situ visit of the site would actually go a long way to sort of to helping you understand what the possibilities might be.
And one thing I did want to say is that another reason why we're trying to keep the piece on one side of the terrace, on our side, which is the Hispanic side, is because we do programming throughout the summer. We invite musicians to perform on the terrace. We put up chairs. So we need to make sure that we're able to provide public programming, not just public program that's also doesn't relate to the installation, but public program that also relates to the installation. We want to do art making workshops for families. We want to do a lecture outdoors and a nice day, have the artists talk about the piece to a group of people, so there's a need to have space for the public gathering as well. So the space is both, it's basically the installation will be there, but on occasional days, we'll want to activate the space with some kind of public program.
Yeah, and that's
And,
a great.
yeah, I would just add that not aside from programs that we would do on occasion, we of course want viewers to come regularly and see, and so that space shouldn't be so crowded that viewers and visitors can't walk through it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it's a living, breathing space, and so the work will be part of that experience, whether there's a program, whether somebody's walking in off Broadway, whether there's an exhibition, the work will be part of all of those experiences. So I think that's a nice thing to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, one of the things that we plan to, and this is our fingers crossed, only the East Gallery is open right now, which is the first gallery off the Broadway Terrace. But we hope that during next year, during 2023, we will be able to open up the main building and Soroya Gallery. And so that the access to that will be up those stairs. So that's also that the staircase that you saw in the photograph are access to the main museum, as well as to American Academy of Arts and Letters, which they also do an exhibition during the spring, so in the fall. So again, so it's open space, and we're trying to contain it, and so we create traffic patterns as well as engagement areas for programming. So it's we have to be mindful of all these things.
I just have a quick question. Can I?
Of
Sure.
course.
Can I
please
ask
do.
now? Like being this for the following year, don't you guys think it's a little too soon? The deadline is May 31st, this May, right? It's May 31st of this month.
Yes.
So it's only, and this is the first meeting, right? This is the first meeting, like the call was just last week or something. So I just feel a little too fast. I don't know if there's any particular reason for that date, or what were your thoughts about it? Because it's a major project. I don't think it's quite, I mean, it's big. It's a little big for, I don't know.
It's a great question. I think Alex, you might want to respond to this as well. I mean, we're not to put you on the spot, but not deflecting, but also, I mean, it may be that we consider sort of conception, Alex, I mean, we had said.
Well, we felt that it was important for us to announce the first person in June during this art stroll, which is in June. And so, and we said the 31st, so we can have the first 2 weeks of June to review the proposals and meet with maybe 2 or 3 finalists before we announce the winner. I think we're looking at June 18th now, more or less.
Yeah.
But if we get, it all depends. If we get 30 applications, 20 applications is enough to choose from, we are going to move forward. And if we get like one application is not really doesn't fit, then we have to reevaluate the timeline.
Yeah, I think we have to be, and Marta, your question is a good one. I think, it's, we have to look at all the pieces. This is the first time we're sort of, working in this way, in this collaboration. There are lots of moving parts. It's the space, it's, the conception, it's our missions, it's a year,
Right.
all of those pieces. And so I appreciate that there may
There's
be
the renovations of the building.
right,
It's
the
a lot.
renovations, right. So I appreciate that there are some challenges. I think that there are both restrictions because there are space limitations or engineering issues in terms of, wind and all those other factors, but there's also space, I think, to sort of think creatively. So I think that those are all pieces that we will consider. I also think that, and Alex and I have, we've talked about this as well, there'll be an interview component, because we would, and Alex mentioned this before, this is a collaboration, right? So it's not just a collaboration between institutions, it's a collaboration among institutions and artists. And so all of those pieces will be taken into account. So I think the conception for a piece, the sort of that can be part of this process.
Right.
So,
And again, we know this is not an incomplete piece. It's not a piece that's already, well, somebody
correct,
asked if they could submit
not
a past piece,
incomplete.
but we realize that people are going to have this is a sketch, an idea. So we're looking
Right.
for the sketch and idea and how it relates to us.
Correct.
How do you
Correct.
change the conversation? How do you add to the conversation of who we are, to how we are as a museum with our mission, who we are as a member of the community, as a member of providing opportunities for contemporary artists who live in the community. So there's many things that we're looking at besides the physical object. Of course, that's all equally important aesthetically, but we're also really looking at the content, the meaning behind it, what's pushing this conversation. And to answer the other questions, no, we do not have a ramp going on for the upper terrace. We're doing maybe a wheelchair thingy. I don't know what it's called.
A lift.
Wheelchair lift. And so there's gonna be like 5 feet from some kind of feet from the steps we can't get to because we have to put the lifts there. So we understand that. And that would be done before we even get to the final product done, because this is going to be done hopefully this fall, the lift, so you wouldn't even be able to see that so you could adjust if need be. And the second question is, in the call, the question is, given the short time of reply, we asked to see past works. Yes, we did request past works, actually. We asked for the proposal, what you plan to do, and some sketches. We were also asked in the application to submit examples of work that you've done in the format, in this style, that relates to this kind of public art, if you will. And we ask you to provide images of those.
Right. I think one of the important aspects of this, and Marta, this is sort of, to your question, is the sort of the feasibility of the project, the conception and the feasibility. Those are the pieces that we would be thinking about. So it doesn't have to be a fully realized project, right? Because you have limited time to do that. But I think the combination of the work that you've done and your conception for the space, those pieces together will help us understand how you may be a good fit for the project. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, again, we will have check-ins as the months go on, as the year goes on.
Correct.
To make
But I mean for the initial process.
Exactly. We understand this is really open-ended. We're not asking for a define. We're not asking for we're not asking to build a model now. We're asking just for the idea.
Correct.
Okay. No, that helps.
Good. Okay. Any other questions that we can answer?
Well, thank you so much. We're really looking forward to receiving the proposals, and we're going to share the blast or this recording to many more artists who couldn't attend. And if we see there's demand, we're open to possibly, I don't know when, schedule another one later on, closer to deadline, if need be. But right now, we thought we would do this and then share this recording with people so they could then send us questions via email if we couldn't answer their questions through this presentation.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And please feel free to reach out to NoMAA. We will, make sure that the questions are directed to the Hispanic Society, to NoMAA, depending on what the questions are, and we can help answer those. But we look forward to those questions. We look forward to those applications. And as Alex said, we're happy, if there's sort of a kind of a group of people who want to have an additional Zoom information session, we're happy to do that as well. But thank you so much for being here tonight. And again, feel free to reach out if you have questions. We look forward to your applications, and we're excited about the project.
And again, the information to reach out to is info@NoMAA.org. And please put in the subject line.
At NoMAA.NYC.
Oh, sorry, I forget, sorry. Sorry, you should say this part, Neria, because someone just
That's
asked again.
fine. She's got it. But thank you. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. NoMAA NYC, and that would be the way to reach us. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michelle. Michelle posted in the chat, so feel free to use that to ask questions. Thank
And I think
you.
it's also in the call, I believe.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks
If
a
not, we can
lot.
edit that.
Thank you.